so ends the reading. I guess I want to tell you about my 5-year-old son's ministry of late. I will call it a ministry, what he's been doing lately, just this past maybe month or two. When we go out, so he's 5, and when we go out on a bike ride or go to a park or go on a walk together, and he sees people, particularly men, he tells them he loves them. He does this knowing, because he's been doing it for a few months, that it makes them a little uncomfortable. And for some of them, it makes them very uncomfortable. As he's riding his bike, he'll see a man walking with another man. Maybe they're walking a dog. Maybe they're friends. Maybe they're family, son and father. And he says, "I love you. I love you." If they don't answer, he'll say it again, louder, until finally they say, "Also have a good day," or they say, "Thanks." I mean, it's just very awkward. And I feel like what he's doing in this ministry of his, insisting on telling men he loves them and hearing their response and letting them hold his love for them. And he says it earnestly. And he tells us later, "I told him I loved him." We say, "Yes, I heard." I think what he's doing is in defiance of toxic masculinity, and it's just a praise for his love of guys, of people, of maybe hoping to one day grow up to be just like them. And also insisting on loving them. Insisting on loving them right there on the street. Right there in the moment when we have to stay distanced. In some ways, I think this is his response to the distance. Yeah, we can't shake hands anymore. We can't walk too close to each other, but we can still shout from the other side of the street, "I love you." You, it's you. I love you. Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the hearts, the gift of speaking, listening, imagining, seeing, waiting. How do you love something? How do you love? This is a question I have asked myself time and time again throughout my life. And I think the way I love something is by wanting it to be better and making it better. This is how I love my faith, my congregation, and my country. I want us all to be better. And I know, too, that the opposite of injustice is not love. I want to be clear that the opposite of injustice is justice. And so I must love this country in a way that leads us towards justice, always in that trajectory. So when I speak of universalism, and when I speak of a love that is greater than all, that is holding us all, an infinite love, I want to be clear that this love is paradoxical. It's a love that accepts our worth and our dignity without question. And it is also a love that demands justice and progress, that rages. It is challenging. It is deep. It is revolutionary. It is a whole unbroken truth that we are loved, and so are they. We cannot take away someone's worth and dignity, just as we cannot bestow it. Worth is not earned. The worth and dignity of every person simply is. This is our truth. My first experience with faith was falling in love. I had doubted all my life my short life at that point, that love even existed beyond Hallmark cards and commercials. And yet, when I felt it, it was so palpable, so real, timeless, and eternal. Yet, I could not taste it. I could not touch it nor see it. But there was no doubt in my mind of the fact of its existence. Love is real, I remember thinking. And so, what else could be? This was the open door into a lifelong journey of faith in love, leading me towards the seminary where I discovered a faith in God, a faith in myself, in the world community. This is how I understood both our Unitarian Universalist principle and also the golden rule: love thy neighbor as thyself. You cannot love your neighbor until you love yourself, until you honor your own worth and dignity. You cannot honor the worth and dignity of others. And I am not talking about being selfish or self-serving, but self-loving. Loving yourself into healing from the trauma of your childhood or other trauma. Loving yourself enough to hold healthy boundaries, to care for your body and your heart. And so I hope this week you have loved yourself well. I hope you have meditated, listened to music. I hope you're cooking great soul food, cleaning your home, laughing on the phone with an old friend. And I also hope you put down the phone. I hope you have unplugged a little bit from the news cycle whose profit is made off of your anxiety. This is how we will survive. Falling in love with your own company is often the difference between isolation and solace. Each morning this week, as you know, I meditated for a full 15 minutes, sometimes more, and I could not believe how much I was affected by the practice. Just 15 minutes. The first 5 minutes were like going into battle. I'm not going to lie. Battle with anxious thoughts. What's going to happen? Struggling to keep still amidst the desire to take care of some business, to accomplish something, against an ongoing sensation of powerlessness. Wrestling with these thoughts, I breathed them into some kind of submission and truly just tried to love my anxieties like the yapping dogs of my mind. I breathed love into them and breathed out peace. The last 5 minutes of my meditation were finally productive. And when I would come out of it, I felt like I had done some kindness to myself, for myself. My fuse was longer when my kids would argue, my reaction time slower to whatever horrifying news was to come. Rather than feeding from a steady diet of Chiron ticker headlines at the bottom of the screen right into my brain, I decided to get my news of the week from the look on my husband's face across the room. As I did all of my work this week, he sat across from me, sending me calm smiles, breathing deeply with a reassuring wink. Sometimes when he saw my distress, he would remove his headphones and say, "This is the democratic process. They must count all the votes. It's going to be okay." Steadfast, trusting, solid. This is what it looked like to love myself through this week. To remind myself, calm is contagious. Any of these can serve to feed the hungry, bind up wounds, welcome the stranger, praise what is sacred, do the work of justice, or offer love. Any of these can draw down the prison door, hoard bread, abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with injustice, or withhold love. You must answer this question: what will you do with your gifts? Choose to bless the world. This is what our universalism demands of us. Rather than curse the world, we must bless the world. Whether or not you believe America is a shining city on a hill, you have the power to bless it. And I see you bless the world every day. I see you out there working as a poll observer and then a ballot counter and curer. I see you tutoring children who need some help after school. I see you writing postcards to voters. I see you phone banking, though you are nervous about what you'll encounter. I see you bringing food to people struggling with homelessness on the streets. I see you wondering, worrying if you have done enough with all that you have to give. The choice to bless the world is more than an act of will, a moving forward into the world with the intention to do good. It is an act of recognition, a confession of surprise, a grateful acknowledgement that in the midst of a broken world, unspeakable beauty, grace, and mystery abide. There is an embrace of kindness that encompasses all life, even yours. And while there is injustice, anesthetization, or evil, there moves a holy disturbance, a benevolent rage, a revolutionary love, protesting, urging, insisting that which is sacred will not be defiled. Those who bless the world with their life as a gesture of thanks for this beauty and this rage. The choice to bless the world can take you into solitude, to search for the sources of power and grace, native wisdom, healing, and liberation. This was a difficult hour for our country. To learn that 70 million people willingly chose a bigot, an abuser, a liar, and worse. Even if you told yourself to expect nothing more, it was a devastating outcome. Many of you learned of family members and relatives whose core values you barely recognize. How could you have been raised in the same home where they were raised? You spoke of isolation, pain, confusion. Many of you learned that a great number of Americans wish to return to something more like the Jim Crow era, or else they are unmoved by inhumane policies against people who look like you or your family. Many of you struggle to feel safe in America. Many of you discovered that a large number of your fellow citizens wish to regulate your body, keep you vulnerable to losing all your dreams to a life spent raising unwanted children. UU leader, colleague, and friend of mine, Carrie McDonald, said yesterday, "We don't need to heal divisions for the sake of unity. We need to heal injustice for the sake of humanity." This is a moment to root down into your core values. What makes you a Unitarian Universalist? What makes you the person you love? How will you bless the world? Rather than seeking and finding fault with progressive leadership or with the nuances of language in liberal communities, what if you just focus on the self? Bless the world by becoming ever more anti-racist yourself. Work on becoming a more devout feminist yourself. Become known in your community for being an excellent transgender activist, a civil rights activist. Let your Unitarian Universalist faith guide you to do the most important work of your life now. And as always, the good news is that you don't do this work alone. We are all with you. More, the choice will draw you into community, the endeavor shared, the heritage passed on, the companionship of struggle, the importance of keeping faith, the life of ritual and praise, the comfort of human friendship, the company of earth, the chorus of life welcoming you. None of us alone can save the world. Together, that is another possibility waiting. Amen. May it be so.